Hello, once again, my name is Tim Grady. I'm from the Lawton, Oklahoma Seventh-day Adventist Church. I am just a member. Excuse me. The allergies are kind of big right now. Um, Today I want to talk about the $1 sailboat concept, the what I call the Huckleberry Finn concept of getting off. And I'd also like to talk about why and why I believe it is time to leave the city. And I think that time is very much now. So, 1 second. I'm going to pray now. So let's bow our head in prayers. Eternal God, this is a message. This is why the channel is called Loud Watchman's Loud Cry before the Second Advent. I'm trying to warn people to get out of the cities when it's time. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. So when we're told to get out of the cities, again, when it was Ellen White's time, and when it's time after Ronald Reagan made a deal with the Pope to bring down communism, Ellen White's 9/11 prophecy, 9/11, where the historians call it the Third Intifada. And 11 pretty much brings up that it is the Third Intifada, otherwise known as the Third Well. Ellen White's warnings: when you see the unions riot, I don't understand. Ellen White can make a statement and she can go places we can't. But when she's saying, look at this, and when they start doing this, and we have to look around the world, unions are organizing and doing bad things in Poland, South America, China, Russia, all around the world. And it's getting worse. And when she says, look at that sign, and the warning she gives on labor unions and so on and so forth as a sign of the end times, I believe the No Kings and the unions that are involved in that are part of the sign. When the Roman legions planted their flag with the sun worship on, attacked, left, all the Christians left. Now, we must remember, no Christian died in the siege and destruction of Jerusalem and the destruction of Temple in 70 AD. But those Christians did not get away scot-free. They were chased down. They were martyred and persecuted. So we must remember that. So there's a lot of going on with why to leave the cities. The other question is, what are you willing to live without? To live a more Christ-centered life. Now, do you have to get down to the van lifers that have, less than a week's worth of clothes, and some of the others? And that is another strategy that I'm going to talk about later, van life and how to get out of the city in van life. I'm also going to talk about the station wagon homesteader. That was really big in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. Well, we don't have station wagons anymore. We have minivans and we have vans. And yeah, with a family, it's harder to do so. But we can still leave the cities. What Ellen White warned about the cities as they had gambling, They had movies starting. They had other distractions. They had Broadway plays and all these things that distracted from God. I understand it's hard right now, but this is the time it's easy to flee the cities than when it gets hard to flee the cities. I believe, this is my personal belief, that Daniel 11 and Matthew 24 are coming together right now with what just happened in the General Conference meeting, with what is happening in the world. Basically, Matthew 24 and Revelation 13 is the world. Let's just look at the wars and rumors of wars, and how we know we're in the last war of the king of the north and the king of the south. Now that we clearly understand who the king of the north and who the king of the south is, whether you believe it is the coming out of the communist revolution, and it is strictly Russia and China, and it's the invasion of Ukraine, or it is Israel and the Muslims. King of the North is squeezing on one side, King of the North is squeezing on the south. It doesn't matter. They all use the same checkpoints in Daniel and Revelation. And eventually that's going to go to a world war. When it is rapid events, I don't see how you're going to be able to transition from leaving the cities. And Ellen White warns, when it's time to flee the cities and you don't, you will receive the indignation of God in those cities. I understand that some will be called to be in the cities and witness unto death, and others are not, that are to leave the cities. Also, we are warned, leave in family groups of 2 or 3, possibly 4. You can include single people. Basically making co-ops in leaving the city. Now, back to the $1 boat idea, or what I call the Huckleberry Finn floating house idea. Leave in groups. Try and get more than one person to do so. I'm looking at alternative out-of-the-box thinking way of getting out of the cities. Now, with these floating cities ideas, you can use the scooters, but you can also, now remember, we are not trying to go off-grid. We are not trying to go off-grid to the point where we're hiding from the government, because we know God will protect us. So that's another point I wanted to make. Now, if you want to go off and not have driver's licenses and not have all this and not all that, that just draws more attention. As a former law enforcement officer, I would say bad idea. It's better to conform until it's time not to conform. You can, and render under Caesar what is Caesar's. He says, identify yourself, identify yourself. God will impress upon your heart when it is time to throw your ID away, throw your, cell phones need to go away eventually. But you will know that time. Again, living in a third world environment or a sub-third world environment to where you are having nothing for the sake of God, get rid of the worldly attachments. I've done the best I can in my life to do so. At my age and my health, I'm doing the best I can. I'm living in the city. I live right next door to a military base, where I can get medical treatment. I live in a town of anywhere from 20 to 50,000, depending on deployments, depending on the military. I live in Lawton, Oklahoma. We have 2 hospitals. We have the VA clinic. We have access to the Oklahoma City VA hospital. With the boat idea, getting on the water or getting in van life, you can live outside the city, commute into the city. Again, with a scooter or an electric bicycle. I didn't want to get into there until this video, talking about an electric bicycle. Now, if you do the $1 sailboat, it's really hard to have enough battery charging, solar panel, and you could put a half a kilowatt per boat, and if you have 3 boats, that would give you 1.5 kilowatt. You could also put up a wind generator and generate enough electricity to charge your battery operated bicycles or your gas powered scooters. It is a great option. Both of those are great options. And again, you can have on the bikes, you can put a child carrier on the back. You can put a trailer with 1 or 2 smaller children. There are trailers that you can get for the bicycles that have brakes. It has a splitter cable to a splitter cable, and it pulls both brakes on the rear. Those are cargo trailers. Those usually are more expensive. They also they can also carry 200 pounds. 200 pounds is a lot of stuff to carry. You could put a 4x8 sheet of plywood upright, kind of like a big fin going through the air. So you can get materials to and from. You can get grocery shopping. You can have a group go in and do buying for the group, so there's less people going into town. When you have a co-op, that makes life easier. I don't want to quote Hillary Clinton, but I will quote Hillary Clinton. It takes a village to raise a child. I don't say it takes a village, but if you have a group of families, 2, 3, or 4, you have families, and then maybe a couple of single persons in your flotilla. Many hands make light work. You can also run security, because now you're only taking 2 people into town instead of your whole family into town, and now your family can stay where you're floating, where your little floating village is. You can move your floating village, and you can still be on the outskirts of a town. The worse things get, you can move further and further away. These are 3rd world ways of normal life. That's what I'm talking about. I know lots of places in the 3rd world that it is so expensive that people have to live on the water, and get, boats 50 boats wide before you have to walk across 50 other people's boats to get to the shore. But it is not a bad way of living. Yeah, you deal with a lot of moisture, you deal with a lot of mold and mildew, and living on the water is living on the water. I've lived on the water as a commercial fisherman. I've lived on the water for about 6 months in one summer, in a little barge out in the ocean, in a small bay, not well protected. Every time the weather got bad, the barge got bad. Living in a river system is different from living in a bay or open to the ocean. And get out of the cities. That's what it's all about. It's time to get out of the cities. That's my opinion. And I'm taking the Matthew 24, looking at the church, saying not look at the world. Don't look at wars, rumors of wars, and all these things that must come to pass. Look at what the church has done. I believe that the three angels' message, first angel's message, is about to be done. I think we have reached the world with what the satellite program that has been done in South America. Amazing Facts and their ministry with the AI reaching people in their second languages to these language groups, because we don't actually have to reach the language group in their language. Think about it. Does it actually say that in the Bible? Now, the third ministries that are making a huge difference to reach every nation, kindred, tongue, and language group are people that teach, like in the United States, they will teach English. In Canada, they will teach English or French, depending on where they're immigrating to in Canada. And these minister groups are these groups find immigrants from those nation, tongues, kindreds, and people, and they find them immigrating to the United States, and they witness to them. So there are other ways that the church has finally started in the last 5-8 years, have been reaching these previously unreached language groups, kindreds, tongue, and people. So I believe A&N announced a while back that we have reached every nation, tongue, kindred, and people. And if that is true, wow, this is the end time. If the first angel's message is preach it to all the world, the second angel's message, I believe that the first angel's message was to be preached all the way before and from 1844 to today, or recently, that we have reached, if we have reached all nation, tongues, kindred, group, people groups, and we have reached that, this is time to leave the cities. Because you won't have much time, because of the rapid events of the second angel's message. Come out of her, my people. Come out of Babylon, oh my people, thing, is what God is saying. Come out of my people. Come out of her, my people. Come out of Babylon. And the daughters of the whore of Babylon, and the fornication and the false doctrines that they are being led to. We are entering the second angel's message. It's not going to be done by the General Conference. It's not going to be done. It's going to be done by you, me, and everyone else. And we are about to enter the greatest evangelistic opportunity. And my little measly brain, I can't figure this out. I can't figure this out. If you can, please tell me. Please contact me and tell me why. Christianity does not flourish during periods of lack of persecution. It flourishes during persecution. I don't understand why. I can't understand that. It should be flourishing during the good times and during persecution. But when persecution comes, Christianity, people coming to God under adversity, is huge. You study through history. When the church was persecuted, or Israel was persecuted, Israel was scattered and then regathered. That's when the persecution, they came back to God. I wish it wasn't the way it is, but it is the way it is. And if we're going to be a help, oh, this is a major idea. And I will try and hit this in every video I make. What you have in your mind cannot be taken from you. If you have a skill in your mind, and you've developed your hand and the motions and the skills, an example, if you are not learning to do microgreens and sprouting and grass juicing, get to it now. If you can't mark a line, cut a line straight, develop that skill. If you can't pound a nail in straight and in few blows, develop that skill now. Start developing your mechanical skills. Start developing your reasoning skills where you can get through tasks without problems. Develop your DIY skills. That is what is going to serve you in a little time of trouble, is your DIY skills. Ellen White says the last ministry is going to be the health message ministry. If you can now do a back rub and relieve someone's headache, and take that away, you can witness to them. When you can show someone how to juice grass or eat grass, chew it like gum, make sure it goes down, wait a minute, wait a few seconds, swallow the grass that is spent without the chlorophyll in it, where the chlorophyll is now in your body. You also need the cellulose roughage to go through your body to make your intestines have something to clean them and to go through them. If you can show them how to wheatgrass juice, if you can show them how to do it without a juicer, or you can show them how to do it with the rocks, or, the smooth rocks, and roll the rocks and squeeze the juice out, and the different methods. It is much easier with a hand crank that I keep showing. A hand crank wheatgrass juicer is much easier than rolling it between two rocks. So I am dealing with concepts, but these are things you have to research on your own. These are things you're going to have to spend some time in YouTube learning. These are things you're going to have to spend time doing so. But if you're not moving out now, that you at least, if you haven't taken a Stop the Bleed course or a basic first responders course, go do it now or shortly in the next few days. Call them, find out what the cost is, where it is, and go do it. That little bit of knowledge could save you or your family during a little time of trouble. So that's kind of about it today. I just wanted to, electric bicycles on the boat idea, it is possible. And again, do not, okay, this is a point for the $1 sailboat idea. If you have a 24-foot sailboat, which is I don't recommend anything smaller unless you're using it for storage or a potty or head and storage. Going from a 24 to a 30-foot sailboat, the cost of it to build is doubled. And to go from a 30-foot to a 35-foot, the cost doubles again. Also, the material, the weight of the boat, all of that is harder to move, harder to maneuver. That's why I recommend you get 3 boats. And please go back and watch the $1 sailboat and the other videos in the playlist that go with that. please watch those and take the concepts, because it is out of the box thinking. If you are going to try and go by land somewhere, it is easier to afford it. I will be making another video short in a few days, hopefully. If I remember and all works out right, I will be making another video on Gothic arch buildings, the Gothic arch construction method. The Gothic arch and aircrete is a wonderful combination. Again, it is the least expensive per square foot. It's a little more than a hard side tent. And if you go with composting toilets, if you're allowed, if not, you have to make a simple either a septic tank or some sort of septic system. I'll deal with equipment and ways of doing things in a very different way. You don't have to have multi-$1,000 worth of equipment. A simple, learning to weld, even if you can just stick metal together good enough, that will go a long way in building tools. And an example, I covered in one of the videos, a gas-powered jackhammer. That'll dig your soil. You get an 8-inch piece of pipe, whatever length you want it. You cut it in half, and you take that half round, weld it to the to an old what do you call that? Breaker bar that comes out of that vibrates. And you weld that to that, and you can dig through rocks, you can dig through clay, you can dig through all that, you can break it up, and you can get it out. It's better than digging by hand. That's all I got to say. And there are other things on the water. And van life and water life go together. So you can watch some of the van life videos and get how people are using power stations, solar, home solar. I prefer individual components because if a component breaks, you don't have to replace the whole thing. So I also don't like lithium batteries. The Lifeboat 4, I don't like the newer ones. I don't like them. I prefer the AGM batteries, but that's a personal preference. If weight is an issue, you've got to go with the Lifeboat 4 and newer batteries. I know I'm going further off the topic and introducing other topics. And a lot of these topics I'm going to deal in concepts, and I'm going to have you go on YouTube, go on the internet, and find. By the way, you can get very inexpensive used solar panels from a few different companies. I mean, you're talking 60 cents a kilowatt hour. But remember, those older panels are 60 pounds for 200 watts. So if you have a boat and it is limited on weighed down with heavy construction or whatever, everything you add puts you further and further down in the water, which means you cannot have, without that freeboard, you cannot take a mild storm without getting everything wet inside. That's very important. Being able to have enough freeboard. And if you are gunk hauling, which means you're going from bay to bay to bay, going in the muddy bays, gunk hauling, that's where the term comes from. If you are gunk hauling, you need as much freeboard to get out into a little bit of into a 1 or 2, 3 foot waves without the Coast Guard coming in and saying, we're seizing your boat because you're not safe and we're taking you back to shore. they can do that. Your boat is not safe. But as he shows, he's been the man that I said, backwaters and back roads. He shows where he's been every time that he has a contact with the Coast Guard. He records it. Every time he tries to. I don't think he's gotten every single one, but he tries to get every contact with the lock to show you how to get through the lock systems with these floating barges. So there are ways. The information is out there. You have to take the time and put it in your head and get it solid before you go take an action. And with that said, I think I'm going to end it here. So, out here.